Hello, everybody. This is Denise again, your Ascension Oracle, and today is the last day of September. And I swear today that I already went through the last day of September yesterday. I was freaking out. And, the linear time is starting to do some really strange, or I say it's still doing some strange stuff, guys. So yeah, I was like, wait a minute, this is weird. I don't want to do yesterday over again. But anyway, seeing as it is the last day of September, I thought I'd pull some cards for us light warriors, light workers, starseeds, whatever you want to call yourself, those who are here to assist Gaia in the ascension process, assist humanity, and of course assist ourselves, because yes, this is the great school, isn't it? So anyways, I like to pull a few cards and see what October has in store for us. And the first card I'll pull is what one message Spirit would like us people, those of you like us, to have for the month of October. What message? What important message? Okay, and I'm going to pull this top card here. So I'll put that one down, and the next card I want to pull is what will be one of the challenges that us light workers, light warriors, starseeds will have for the month of October. God, I just can't shuffle today. It's too high. I'm trying to keep this up. I have to shuffle lower or something. I don't know. Okay, so pull this card, reflection. And that's interesting because that's what we're going to do today. And okay, so challenge. And the last card will be our next right action. What is our next right action? What should we do? What is it that we need to do? Oh, that's a cool card. So October, you guys. Okay, so wolf instinct. The message. I think I pulled this card before for us. The wolf, remember, the wolf is community, family, all about community and family and working together. You know, they have to work together to survive. The wolf cannot go to the nearest McDonald's or the nearest natural grocers for groceries. So they've learned how to come together. They've learned how to work together. But they do this by instinct. And this instinct is something that, you know, is passed down through the line. You know, the pups are born with the instinct, and then the next pups are born with that instinct. So they work on instinct. And so this card tells us that this card is telling us, Spirit's telling us that we have to remember to work with our instinct. We have to start working with our starseeds brothers and sisters. We have to start coming together and working together in harmony, and that we have forgotten a little bit about using our instincts, that internal Geiger counter that's inside of us that has all the information. So that's Spirit's telling us, let's get back to our instinct, our intuition, you know, that inner knowing, not worry about what everybody else is saying. You know, the best way to the fifth dimension is through yourself. Okay, so our biggest challenge is reflection, the winter solstice. Okay, so that's the winter solstice is another equinox. I mean, equinox, another solstice, another time of the year, very, very profound time of the year. And it's when we get to go back and reflect upon our journey thus far. What was our past year like? You know, what did we do? What did we accomplish? What, you know, the whole year has been crazy, going crazy, crazy, crazy. You know, this year's been crazy, hasn't it, guys? Look at everything that we've been up against and everything we've gone through and are still going through. So this card is telling us that we're coming into a time now, the more crazier it's going to get, the more we need to go within and start doing that reflection work. And also that inner work, the solstice is another time of illumination. It's a time of going in and slowing down and illuminating what's going on around us. So that's going to be our challenge. That's going to be a little hard for us to do because there's going to be a lot more distraction and there's going to be a lot more going on, you know, this next month, as you know. So we're gonna get all caught up into all that like we've been. So it's more of the usual. So it's hard for us to go in and do our inner work, and it's so important. That's why there's so many distractions out there to keep us from our instinct, our inner instinct, our inner abilities, keep us from that, and our inner knowing, so that's going to be really hard for us. We're just going to keep getting caught up into everything that's going on around us. So we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't let ourselves get caught up into everything that's going on. Okay, so emergence. What is our next right action? Okay, here we are. We have the dragonfly. Dragonfly is another illumination card. What emergence. So here we have a goddess, and she's in the water. And let's see, what else do we have? Oh, okay, so we have the dragonfly that is on a lotus. And so all of the same things, the dragonfly, the lotus, and the goddess is emerging from the pits of the pond, let's say. And at the bottom of the pond is all the dark, murky, muddy, nasty water. It's hard to see what's going on down there in the bottom. You know, we've been in the bottom and we've you know, lived in the darkness, and it's been hard for us to really see what's going on. And so it's our time to emerge out of that darkness, emerge. And, you know, the dragonfly, it has a very, it's spirituality speaking, the dragonfly misses a stage like most other winged insects. It misses that pupa stage where it doesn't have to go in the cocoon. It goes from the nymph and it sheds that outer shell and it emerges out of the water with the wings. It doesn't have to take that period of time, that inner period of time, because it's already done that. It started in the water. You know, doesn't the dragonfly lay the egg in the water? So we've already done that dark, nasty stuff. So it's time for us to emerge out of that darkness. It's time to do our work and arise out of that. And so we really have to work at getting away from all the distraction, rising up above the distraction. And emergence is another symbol of, when you emerge, you're rising your vibration. You're going to that next level of spirituality, like the dragonfly. It misses a stage. It just goes from one stage to the next. And it's like this great and heightened spiritual growth. And so we have this extra boost coming if we learn how to reconnect back to our instincts, that inner intuition and knowing, and can slow down enough and do our inner work, our reflection work, and stay away from that distraction and all that crap that's going on, the election and everything. It has to play out the way it's going to play out. We have to worry about ourselves. So if we want to emerge like the goddess out of the darky depths of the pond, we have to do all our work. So this is our next right action. We are going to be emerging if we can do the previous steps. And so this fast spiritual, you know, it's going to be like we're from here to here. You know, we got this heightened, this quick rise of vibration. So October is going to be really interesting for us people, us light workers, us light warriors, us starseeds who are doing their work. The ones that are sitting around watching politics, thinking that all this money is just going to come to our checking account and thinking that everything's okay. You're not doing your work, people. You're not doing what you signed up to come in here to do. And so I want to do some more reading on the Great Cosmic Mother, because I think it's very important now, because we're here, we're taking this ride with this beautiful planet, this living being planet. And, I think back about the time when years and years and years and years ago, I thought it was the third rock from the sun. It was just a rock. I had no idea. I had this feeling in the way I acted and how I treated the animals and things like that. I was already on board with that. I was already on that journey, but I had no idea. When you're brought up in Christianity, they teach you differently, don't they? They teach you everything's up in the ethers, right? You're storing your treasures in heaven, and so it has nothing to do with this planet that we live on, and we are part of this planet. This planet is part of us, and history is a big part of us. We need to know our history. We need to go back, because we so many people say it, and I say it, and I believe it. We have to heal the third dimension. We have to learn about it, and we have to heal it in order to be able to rise into the fifth dimension. It's all about doing our shadow work. It's all about doing our inner work. And so for those of you who want to pass this up, you're just going to keep wallowing, so to speak. So, but the woman is a huge part of this. The woman has been the one that's been really, really suppressed, and it's just because the dark wanted to turn the man against the woman, because the dark knew how powerful the divine balance union was between a balanced woman and a balanced man. If they came together in an egalitarian fashion, honoring each other, honoring what each other brings, and they came in a sacred union, the sacred union, the sex act of creation. And it's not just creating another being, it's creating the world around them through their energy. So when these two beings came together in perfect union, the energy that was released during the orgasm, this balanced orgasm, was so powerful. And that's what they were afraid of. They didn't like that power. They wanted us to not realize what power, what great creating we could do by this sacred union. And they've turned sex into an ugly act, and it's just sex. You go from one person to the next, and what you're doing is you're feeding that very powerful energy to those that know how to use it, and they take it from us, and it deletes our personal energy. It drains our energy batteries. It drains the energy in our hearts. And so they know about it, and so they wanted to devise a way to keep the men and the women separate. And it wasn't always like that in the beginning, the Lemurian times. It was at egalitarian, where they saw the divine, the balance of the divine, the God and the goddess in each other. And so the dark has worked so hard to break that apart. And we'll let the man think he has the power, because the man will be the one to waste. The man's going to go with the woman. By nature is hardwired to come into that divine union. The woman most women, not all, most women have to have some feelings for the man, right? Before they want to have sex. It's, they have that hardwired within them, that they don't really know why, but they don't want to waste that energy just on anybody. Well, the man doesn't care, right? It's just a release. And what are they doing? They're releasing and feeding somebody else, wasting that and draining themselves. So they know by doing this and suppressing the woman and making the woman feel bad about who she is, the power she has, and the ability to give birth, that will bring her further into imbalance. So you've got these two beings coming together in imbalance, and so this energy is just wasted and it's harvested. And so I think it's very important for us to continue, the history of this for knowledge purposes, and to understand when we come together in the sacred union with somebody else, we have this in the back of our mind and we're going, wait, what am I doing with this energy? Am I creating something beautiful with this, or is it just a negative release that's feeding the dark agenda? So this chapter that I picked out is called The Organic Religion of Early Women. And this might, the women might like this better than the men, but I think if the men are coming more into balance and reconnecting with their divine feminine selves, they're going to want to listen, and they're going to understand, and they're going to glean some knowledge from this. And it's not a very big chapter, but okay, so let's get cracking here. All right. The first God, Mother Earth, was a human concept, or the sign of a human response to an experienced fact. A human response to an experienced fact. They weren't told, they experienced it themselves by doing that instinctual inner work. The first arts and religions, the first crafts and social patterns were designed in recognition and celebration of her. But what were real human females feeling and thinking? We can only see the attributes of the great goddess as the projections of women's experiences of themselves. As we read the powerful magic signs of the Great Mother celebration, we can read these first women's powerful discoveries and celebrations of themselves. Now remember, this was before the dark was saying, hey, you're bad, you're a Eve, you're a Lilith, they're both bad, they dealt with the devil. The religious beliefs, the mysteries and rites developed by ancient women grew organically out of women's supreme roles as cultural reproducers, mothers, and prime communicators with the spirit world. And it's interesting because, they say that a lot of people say who do the mushrooms, a lot of people say that the shamans, the shamans and the witches and whatever they were called back then, they were able to wake up by exactly what this says. They knew which plants to try. They listened to the mother. They were so closely connected with her, and they knew, okay, let's try this one. And that was able to awaken them. They got the shroom, the psilocybin, and it was able to further awaken them. The mysteries of creation, transformation, and recurrence. The primal mysteries of all religions emerge from woman's direct physical and psychic experiences of these mysteries in bleeding, in growing a child, in nursing, in working with fire, in making a pot, in planting a seed. And now, we know women were also the ones that first domesticated the animals. In pottery, craft, and myth alone, we can see the development of a religion. The pot was seen to have the body shape and internal womb of the mother. In Neolithic Europe, clay was said to have a woman's soul, and no man was allowed to see the female potter at work. And it's like all the times the gypsies, maybe the Aborigines, but the gypsies and the Native Americans, they knew when a woman was menstruating how powerful she was. So you women, when you're menstruating, do the menstrual work. Go and sit on Gaia and give back that menstrual blood back to Gaia. In my book, Candlelight and Cobwebs, when we go back to the oracles of Delphi, the priests called the menstruation blood the elixir of life. So the priests would they would get that menstruation blood for themselves. So the pot was seen to have the body shape and internal womb of the mother. Okay, Bubba, I already said that. But anyways, I forgot what my point was. Okay, so when the women were menstruating in these cultures, they knew how powerful they were. And so they weren't allowed, they went into their own, we call some of the women call it the red tent, where they would go in, the women who are menstruating. And back then, everybody was on the cycle the same. So when they would menstruate, they would go away, and they would go away for the 7 days or whatever it was back then. And they would pass along the knowledge and the stories to the young women when the young women started menstruating. And this was their time. This was their magic time. And they had to stay away from the men. Now, the gypsies, sometimes it got to the point where when their religions, the Christianity was starting to kind of mix in there, they started calling the women unclean. So they had to go away. Okay. Clay, sacred to women and the goddess, was often marked with the maze-like windings of the magic underworld, a place of transformation. Aruru Ishtar, the cosmic creatrix of Babylon, was imaged as a potter, a divine potter, shaper of life. The making of cult vessels was like the shaping of life, and the Babylonian words for rebirth were, "We are as fresh-baked pots." From this, we can see the absurdity and the political cooperation of the notion of a male godfather making human beings from clay or dust. We know what they're talking about, right? The biblical image is stolen without shame from the earlier Sumerian and Babylonian goddess creation stories. So we know it. The Bible has been stolen. The stories have been stolen and tweaked and changed and infiltrated just for enslavement, indoctrination. But of course, they give you, 50%. They give you 50% of the good stuff and then turn 50%, that's how they work. Such a patriarchal version of creation is very recent. The facts of women's experience of life are primordial. It is women who goes through the sacred transformations in her own body and psyche. The mystery changes of menstruation, pregnancy, birth, and the production of milk. It is women who first shaped a seed into food, earth into pottery, fire into a tool, the struggle for survival into human culture, woman as procreator and producer creator. Women's mysteries are blood transformation mysteries. The experience of female bodily transformations magically fused with her consciousness in will transformations of matter. So a lot of these type of people that did this kind of work, research, the men, the dark side knew how powerful the woman's menstruation blood was. And so they wanted to find their own powerful way of bloodletting. And so a lot of them say that's how we begat war. a man would go out and battle with another man and draw blood. So that was their way of, doing, of course, it's not the same thing, but if you look into the real dark meaning of why we have wars, Okay. Religious rites were combined with industry. Women's religions were organic. A unity of body and spirit, of daily life tasks, and cosmic meaning. Among the women weavers of the matrifocal Navajo, for example, this is still so. The women experience themselves as being directly inspired by the great spider woman, the original weaver of the universe. And I try, even though I know there's a lot of bad spiders out there, I try when I see a spider in my house, I think about that all the time. And so I catch them and let them go outside. The ones that I feel are really like the Archon type things, I just kill. They use no set patterns and feel no separation between art, sacred, and the craft, secular, profane. The woven blankets are valued as organic expressions of the special powers of the makers. Each blanket with its inspired design has a spiritual significance and is thought of as giving power and protection to the person who wears it. And that is so true. I went through a phase when I was going through my healing work back in the early 2000s. I was painting these huge floor cloths using symbols, would find the right symbol for the meaning of that floor cloth. So it'd be colors, it would be symbols, and it would be design. And then when we would get together and do our journeying and all our meditations and stuff, I would bring those, and then we would all lay on them and do our journeying meditations on these floor cloths that I painted. And so that's exactly what they're doing. Each color, everything has a symbol. It's a thought process when you're doing it. In ancient textiles, a highly charged symbol language was used to communicate herstory and myth. Spinning and weaving were imbued with magic powers, and inscribed spindle whorls are found in innumerable Neolithic sacrificial pits sacred to the goddess. Okay, so you can see, let's see, right there. That's my wheel. That's my spinning wheel. And if you think of Miss of Avalon and you watch the movie that was made after the book, Miss of Avalon, which one was the spinner? The one would spin, and while she was spinning, she would get all of her visions. It was Morgan Le Fay's sister. It'll come to me. Okay. No. Okay. The Greek Artemis, let's see. The Greek Artemis was seen to spin the thread of life, and the three Norns of Scandinavian mythology sat spinning the web of life, destiny, fate, at the roots of Yggdrasil, the cosmic world tree. The subtle energy form of the human body may be seen as a subtle energy form of cosmos, relatively miniaturized, but no less vast and totally alive. The cosmos that we know is a construction, perception, projection of the energy currents in our own bodily system. And so that's why I have two 30-foot spiral wheels in my yard, and I do a lot of my work in the spiral wheels because the spiral is the cosmic energy. Kundalini is the word, is the Sanskrit word for spiral. So cosmic energy. Cosmic mind and human mind are not essentially different or separate, nor are cosmic body and human body. Everything is interconnected in a vast webwork of cosmic being, a universal weaving in which each individual thing or life form is a kind of energy knot or interlock in the overall vibrating pattern. So it's that concept of there's no space between anything. It's just different frequencies of vibration. It's all this pattern that's interlocked. You know, there's space between you and me. We think there is through the 3D eye, but if you look through the third eye, there is no space. It's all interconnected. This cosmic is all interconnected. Okay. Everything is interconnected in a vast work of comic being, a universal weaving in which each individual thing or life form is a kind of energy knot or interlock in the overall vibrating pattern. So that's what I just said. The Latin root for religion is religare, which means a bond, a binding back to something. So that could be good or bad, right? Look at Christian religions, look a lot of the modern day religions. It's a bond, you know, they've been infiltrated and changed to just enslave humanity. So it's that binding of that enslavement. Yoga, interestingly enough, means the same thing, a yoke or yoking of the individual soul to the all. William Irwin Thompson writes, the sacred is the emotional force which connects the part to the whole. The profane or the secular is that which has been broken off from or has fallen from its emotional bond to the universe. Religare means to bind up, and the traditional task of religion has been to bind up the pieces that have broken away from the ecstatic oneness. So, you know, now we're saying we don't need religion, right? Because what we need is inside of us, right? It's inside of us. Truly, religion is the original umbilical cord that binds our individual selves back to our larger universal source. We're talking about true religion here, and it's that internal religion. It's what the women found by experiencing through their own physical bodies. That source in women's religion is the Great Mother, who is the great cosmic weaver, the divine potter, the carrier of the heavenly water jar. We participate in her substance, her nature, her processes, her play, and her work. In her are both the lower regions of the tomb, the world of the dead, and the upper regions of the celestial sky, whose stars are her eyes. Groundwater belongs to the belly womb, region of the lower female. The heavenly rainwater belongs to the great breast region of the upper female. As divine water jar, she is mistress of the upper waters, the rain, and of the lower waters, the brooks, springs, rivers flowing from the womb of the earth. So, you know, women's body, I mean, they already found the connection of the woman's body to the great cosmic mother, the earth. The Egyptian sky and water jar goddess Nut nourishes the earth with her milky rain. In fact, our word galaxy comes from the Greek galaxias, meaning milky circle. And the Milky Way describes the thick white stream of stars pouring from her breast. As uterus, she is a vessel that breaks with childbirth, pouring forth water like a wellspring. These are all symbols of creative life and of ecstatic participation in it. The self-representation of the goddess is a form of divine epiphany, and the parts of her body are not understood literally as physical organs, but as numinous centers of whole spheres of life. So when you think of the creation of the body, when the divine, when source, God, goddess, thought about the creation of the body, I mean, look at this connection here. I mean, it's so much more about we are one. I mean, how much thought that was put into just the creation of the physical body and the meanings of the aspects of the body and the organs and what the body does and can create. It's so fascinating. Her navel is the center of the earth, of us, from which the universe is nourished by our conscious participation, as we are nourished by it. And Delphi, Greece, is supposedly the navel of the earth. And what is the story? They let two eagles fly, and wherever they met up, and there you go, people who believe the earth is flat, they let one go this way, one go that way. And when they met up, that was considered the navel of the earth. And that's where the oracles prophesied for 1100 years. Such symbolism expresses the non-dualistic poetic mind of ancient women who could experience their bodies as whole worlds or universes, and the universe as their own body. Ecstasy is the dance of the individual with the all. And I talked about that before, when you have that divine sacred union and the ecstasy, the ecstasy energy that is released and created from that. Ecstasis means standing outside oneself, and so canceling out the conditioned mind. All life was experienced as partaking of a material spiritual wholeness that was her. In this magic unity, ecstasy and responsibility, i.e. responsiveness, were one. And so the earliest communicators with her of her essence were ecstatic women, shamans, and seers. That is so cool, guys. In their trance states, they were responsible for keeping the energy channels open and flowing between each individual, the group, and the cosmic source. They healed, balanced, translated the life forces from one energy manifestation to another. And they might go into that in this chapter. I don't remember. That way back then, when it was egalitarian, sex was used as a way of healing. The women knew how healing, they knew how powerful the act of sex was and how powerful it was for a woman to open to the male. And if the male needed healing, she would allow the male to come. And I'm sure they had certain ceremonies and rites that they had to go through. And then they would have that divine communion union, so the female could help the man heal. And back then, the men weren't, they weren't afraid of her. They didn't call her names, bitch, old lady, old bag, things like that. They honored her, and they honored the power that she had. And so they were willing to go, and they knew and they understood. So it was that balance. Okay. It is significant that to this day, within almost all the patriarchal world religions, women's robes are still the official priestly garb, women's robe. And male priests function as a kind of male mother to the believers. Among the Siberian tribes, male shamans have always worn ornamental and symbolic breasts on their robes. When civilized, men became the moralistic priests of the new father god. Women and pagans of both sexes remain the shamans, the witches of the ecstatic mother. Now, my belief is that these people, and they say that there's one out of every 25 being, one of them is has these abilities, has these powers, are a witch. And it's like today, when you think of the starseeds and the light workers, today, we say how many of them are here and have been coming in, and a lot of people say only two. There's some people say that only 2.5% of the population is actually awake. And so here we go, even back then, I believe that these people were we know from ancient aliens, how far back in our culture and history the aliens were. They came in. And I think these people that had these abilities and could learn from their experience and connect the dots, they were our early star seeds. They didn't have that term back then. It's like today we call energy, chi, orgone. We're constantly changing these terms. And so people got to stop looking at these witches, this word is a bad thing, these women is a bad thing. It's that old programming that so many people cannot get rid of. The reality implicit in the universe is each one of us is the self at the heart of being, is her way. It is very ancient and has no time. Let's see, and this is in quote, my me is God, nor do I know myself, save in her. Ecstasy is the only way through which the soul can lose itself in union with her. Some male mystics have also understood this. Martin Buber describes prenatal life as the original state of ecstatic consciousness within a sexual spiritual universe, a flowing toward each other, a bodily reciprocity, whatever that word is. The mother's womb is a condensed experience of the cosmos. At birth, we forget this undivided world, but we never forget completely. The memory lingers as a secret image of a wish, a desire for total reintegration. And this is the real meaning of the human longing to return to the womb. It is not at all a sign of pathology or inadequacy, not a backward craving, but an urge to expand, to reestablish a cosmic connection. Contemporary researchers have found neurological connections between religious or trance experience and female sexuality. And so the oracles of Delphi, they would go in their trance, and it was pretty much the methane gas that was floating out of the cracks that were helping the women get into that altered state. In women's brains, there are unique neural links between the forebrain and the cerebellum, which allows sensations of physical pleasure to be directly integrated into neocortex or high brain center. This explains why some women experience orgasms so intense that they enter religious trance or altered states of consciousness. Now, see, this could only be possible when a man and a woman come together in balance and energy and in love and sacred union, and not one just wanting to do the act just to release, and there's no connection there. So that's why it's so hard for women to have orgasm like that, because that's been taken away from us. That's been taken away. That is part of what they don't want us to have and to experience and to understand. They want to keep that away from us, to keep us in control. And this ecstatic female orgasmic experience in which the physical and the spiritual are fused and realized as one is at the core of all mystical experience. This is why in the original religion of the Great Mother, body and mind and spirit are always integrated, because human male brains do not seem to have these neurological connections. Just as human male sexuality has not evolved radically beyond primitive sexuality, while human females, through the shift from estrus to menstrual cycles, have evolved a non-reproductive sexual capacity that functions primarily for affectional bonding. And so that's, we're, like I said before, we're hardwired to not just do the sex act. We don't want to go and conquer, and we don't want to have another notch in our belt. We are hardwired differently than the male. The researchers conclude that it is women who must take the lead in further human evolution. I know. Toward the integration of the conscious and the unconscious mind, and to more profound understanding of the spiritual nature of the species. What these modern researchers are now discovering is something ancient women always knew. The warring dualisms of matter versus spirit, the hostile antagonisms of sexual body versus religious truth, are recent patriarchal inventions destructively forced on the world and the soul. So that's what I've been saying through this whole thing. They had no place at the beginning of things, for they are neither natural nor true. For women, at any rate, they can never be true. And that is why the first religion originated by women was a sexual spiritual religion, the celebration of cosmic ecstasy. Among these early women, though some more receptive psyches might have acted as shamanic trance channels, we can imagine no real leaders, no followers, no hierarchies, just as they were no hierarchic distinction made between ordinary daily tasks and the most exalted rituals, because we can see these women sharing experience as a kind of ecstatic rite in itself. They knew life as an ecstatic rite, and as a right to ecstasy. And so that ecstasy has been taken away from us. And, way back during the Victorian days and earlier, because this was taken away and women were oppressed and suppressed, it was so hard for women to have orgasm and to even experience, we weren't supposed to experience this ecstasy. Remember that other chapter I read you about what they did to the women, the clitoris, cutting it, sewing it, sewing it back up, cutting it, and how they mutilated and just wrecked that area of the woman's body. And so, during the Victorian times and after, and for many years after and before, if a woman was considered cold, well, my goddess, she should have been cold, didn't want to have sex with her husband. He could put her in an insane asylum. If she had a menstruation headache, he could put her in an insane asylum. So you can connect the dots here. The attack on our sexuality is such a huge part of how they are keeping us controlled. Even the men, they've been doing, they've done this to the man too. They've taken away that sacred union. They've taken away the right of creation and manifestation. And that's why a lot of your pagan religions would have sex as part of their manifesting, but they understood this part. They understood this. They understood the sacredness. They did ceremony and they prepared, and it was specifically for a rite of manifesting or a rite of passage, or so they understood the sacredness and the holiness of this, and it wasn't like the Greeks with their misogyny and their orgies, because in the Roman orgies, the Caligula era stuff, that was all about just, let's get them all having sex and not learning and remembering the true magic and the ecstasy. Let's take that away, and let's just let them waste that energy so we can harvest it. And so I think it's really important that we need to know about this and realize this and learn about this if we're going to move forward into the fifth dimension. Because the early cultures, before they were infiltrated, that's where they were at. It's like we're reclaiming that. Women are we are reclaiming our power, ladies. And that's what I came in here to do, because when I started my spiritual work decades ago, my first power animal that came to me from the very beginning was the Black Panther. And that is all about reclaiming the power and having the ability of going within and seeing the true nature of everyone that's around you, and being able to see in the dark, and be able to circle the crowds and stand outside of the crowds and to observe and to know who is good and right and who is dark. And we have to be that way. We have to know so we can be strong and reclaim our power and lead us back to where we used to be on this planet. And it's all part of what the fifth dimension and beyond is going to be. If you listen to anybody that truly connects with a higher multidimensional being, they all say the same thing. Reconnect with nature. That includes your great mother, right? And reconnect to the heart and have compassion and love. They didn't say go out and have sex with everybody that you met in the street, in the bar, at the party, at the concert. No, they said go into nature first. Learn from nature. And that's what the first women did. They've learned from nature and they learned and copied and emulated and experienced this through themselves, and birthed this religion, this way of life through themselves. So that's all I got for you guys today. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.